Have you ever really paid attention to ambient sounds in games? I haven't. Of course, I hear them when I play, and they definitely register in my subconscious, but I can't remember a time when I actively stopped what I was doing to appreciate the sounds in the environment. There's a genuine artistry going on there, and I want to showcase how sounds can shape how you perceive your surroundings. This is the first entry in a brand new series where we do just that. Welcome to Perceiving the Soundscape. Today we're looking at Team Fortress 2, a powerhouse of a game with stunning environments. We've already looked at a couple of maps from the game in my Video Game World Tour series, but now let's use our ears more than our eyes. How do these environments sound? Gotta start with 2 Fort. This is the Team Fortress 2 map in my eyes. As with many maps in the game, you spawn in a sterile little locker room. A heavy droning fills this space. I can only assume this is the air conditioner. 2 Fort isn't really a map with a lot of heavy machinery, so they're probably just running the AC to cool off the mercenaries before they head out to battle. Listen to the humming sound as I walk outside. It transitions ever so slightly. This sound still gives me air conditioning vibes, but considering we're outside, I'll just assume it's normal fans. In here, it definitely sounds like fans blowing air through a bunch of vents in the walls all around you. But out here, it sounds more like fans blowing directly into the space. Look up there. Fan. It's not moving, but This map launched with the game in 2007. That was a long time ago. The tech wasn't there. I guess it is aiming towards this ramp that leads downstairs, so maybe it's meant to cool stuff down there rather than cool off up here. We'll explore that space later though. For now, let's get some sun. It's not as droning as the fans inside, but you can still faintly hear it. It makes sense you'd be able to hear them considering they were relatively loud right over there. But now we get to hear some animals. There's a few different bird sounds that will play, giving the vibe that there's a ton of different species out there. And of course, you have the cows. Considering there's just cutouts of cows made out of wood, I'd like to imagine that these are the cows mooing. They're somehow alive. Honestly, good for them. Heading back towards the battlements, we get some more outdoorsy vibes. The sound profile changed a bit. You can barely hear the fans anymore. Instead, the water flowing about takes center stage. Birds occasionally chirp here too. And something I've almost tuned out after all my hours on this map is that little insect sound that's always going on. What is that? A cricket? Katydid? Entomologists, sound off in the comments. What creature does this sound like to you? Whatever it is, it's always playing. 100% of the time, you will hear buzzing in this part of the map. That's an interesting choice from a sound designer perspective. I imagine you have to think about what catches the player's attention most when designing the sound profile for an area. Here, the water flowing is one of the handful of sounds in this area that sets the vibe. Occasionally there's some animals sounding off, but they're one and done. This buzzing though, it's everlasting. Like I said, I just tuned it out after a while. So once you notice it, it might be a bit annoying, but as you play it fades into the background. Though maybe by me talking about it this much, I've drawn more attention to it than the environmental artist wanted. It's like a you are manually breathing situation, or a your tongue feels uncomfortable in your mouth. Sorry, maybe I should just move on. Okay, let's finally head downstairs and see what delightful draws await us. Oh yeah, this is happening. So we have the AC going on in the very back, just to set the mood, but on top of that, we have all these little technological effects. A printer printing. Going in here and seeing all these machines with reels, my mind jumps back to the very early days of computing, where some things were handled by the computers, but a lot of work still had to be done by hand. So little pieces of paper are printed out, and then a human works their human magic on it. Though there are two separate printer sounds. Over here, this sounds more like a receipt printer. And near this room, it sounds like printers printing out standard sheets of paper. Interesting little distinction there. And of course, we have computer beeps and boops. Very Michael Winslow-esque. This retro-futuristic tech is so visually beautiful, and these sounds perfectly match it. This is how I'd expect a bunch of computers and radars and all that to sound in this era. Upward is the next stage. Spawning in on the blue side, a low, constant wind fills your ears. Occasionally, a gust will come by, raising the volume a little bit. Whenever those gusts do come around, you'll also hear a little rattling sound. Perhaps loose metal tiles on the roof? Or maybe boards missing a nail or two, bumping into the boards beside them. Through that little detail, you get the vibe that this place has maybe seen better days. Walking down here, the wind gets muffled a bit. It's no longer flowing directly onto you, but rather against the walls of the building. It's kinda comfy. Hitting out the spawn doors and onto the battlefield, it's the same little ambience as the room the blue team spawns into. Constant wind with a hint of things clattering. The sound mixed with this landscape, I can imagine a cool breeze enveloping me as I stand on the cliffside. I'm pretty sure the rest of the stage is just those two profiles used in different spots. I couldn't find any areas that sounded different, not even the addition of beeps and boops when next to some computers. It's interesting that there aren't nearly as many areas with different sounds as 2-Fort. I could very easily imagine some areas where they could add a few sound effects here and there to make these areas feel more distinct. Maybe in some of these red buildings, you could hear some faint wood creaking. I'm sure these buildings would love to settle after all the years they've been up. Seeing that this sign says Coal Company, maybe you could have the sound of coals rattling around as they're being handled out of sight. For near the pit, have the sound of some pebble occasionally falling down. Sell the depth of this pit through sound design. Hear me out here. Have the water jugs occasionally bubble. I know that's a super small thing and definitely out of the scope for a level designer, but that's something I'd do as a water cooler appreciator. This map did come out 3 years after the game's release. I'm assuming they had a lot of time to polish the maps that were in the game before launch, so that's why 2-Fort had so much going on for it in the sound department. Though I wonder if another map released at launch would have just as much going on. Granary was in the game at launch. Blue's spawn room has the air conditioning running. Sounds the same as the 2-Fort spawn room. This room sounds a little different. That constant sound, whatever it isn't really as muffled. Could that sound be the smoke coming out of this rocket? Maybe, that'd be a cool little detail. Ah, here we go. Things are a bit different out here. Whew, it's bustling. Could those sounds be cars driving by on roads unseen? Or perhaps trains and heavy machinery transporting very important goods for the Blue Corporation? Whatever it is, there's also a faint rattling to accompany it. That has to be these fences blowing in the wind. It's a very gentle sound, but it's there. Guess it's not super windy today. Throughout the rest of the map, it's stuff we've already heard. No big surprises left for us to hear in Granary here. When I had the idea for this series, I genuinely wasn't sure how much variation we'd hear stage to stage. I guess it makes sense that there isn't a whole lot. Like this droning of the AC sounds great. Why not use it for every spawn room that's vaguely designed like this? And for a lot of the maps, they have super similar environments. It makes sense to reuse ambient tracks if they match the landscape appropriately. While there are a lot of other maps that definitely go for different vibes than the stages we just looked at, when I thought of covering this game for this series, I knew I wanted to talk about Sawmill. You spawn in, and it might seem like any other spawn room with the AC running in the background. But you step outside, and a whole new sound profile reveals itself to you. You're not just hearing the wind this time. This ambient track is so textured. Let's take note of all the different layers to it. First up is the rain. I don't see any rain, but I definitely hear it. This feels like a swampland, and the sound of water pouring onto the ground below reinforces that vibe. Also, there's all the bugs. Like I said earlier, I'm not a bug guy, so I couldn't tell you what bugs are making these sounds. But they're out there, and they're doing a great job. Keep it up, bugs. There's an occasional thunder, rumble, and clap. It's kind of weird that there's such a strong stormy vibe here, but you can't see any rain. Wait a minute. There's gotta be a... Of course I forgot about this setting. I wonder how many of you guys out there disabled weather effects many years ago and forgot these maps even had particles like this. Over here is a waterfall. It's so loud. Kinda reminds me of when Jim, A Quiet Place, went to a waterfall with his son in A Quiet Place. There, he could just scream without the scary monsters attacking him. I'm imagining me doing a bit where I recreate that scene here, but I actually do summon the monsters. But instead of aliens that want to tear me limb from limb, they're sniper bots who want nothing more than to headshot me. Just imagine I did that. You can laugh at my joke now. This sound you might not have heard throughout this video so far. I wonder if you even consciously noticed it or not. The saws. No matter where you are in the level, you can constantly hear the whirring of the saw blades at the center of the map. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier. That's totally something your brain will just subconsciously edit out while playing this stage. As I record footage for this video and edit this section together, I will no doubt stop actively taking notice of the constant saw blade buzzing. I think it's neat how the brain will do that. My favorite little area with special sounds are the 2 intelligence rooms. They're located underground, and because of all the rain, they're flooded. You still hear the saw blade in the background, but I feel that humming is the sound of rain hitting the building above you. That's always such a soothing sound, even in real life. And I can't forget the lovely little water droplets. Listen to them pitter-patter against the small pool of water on the ground. Such a comforting space. That's all I got. Let me know your thoughts on this series idea and what other games you'd like to see me cover. Just some ideas off the top of my head. I think it'd be cool to check out some Grand Theft Autos or Bethesda games. But let me know if you guys have any good ideas. I love ideas. Give me your ideas. Thanks for watching.